Hi, this is Charlie at My Messy Fingers. I am digging again into my stash of Stamperia papers that I've collected, and I'm going to play with today Stamperia's Vintage Library. Now I have two of the core 8x8s, and I have two of the backgrounds selection. And I think I've got enough here to do an 8 signature album. So that's what I'm gonna target. So this video is going to be going over the actual build of the album itself. Now I unfortunately do not have any 65-pound weight cardstock, so I'm using 100-pound weight cardstock. I'll make it work. It's gonna be a little bit stiff, but I'll make it work. This is a blue color that I got off of Cardstock Warehouse that I, what is the name of this? It's Mitering Cobalt. It's 92 pound. So it is really pretty, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's got little white speckles throughout the paper on both sides. And I just thought that it was a unique because it's going to match some of the papers we're going to play with. So here we go. You're going to want to cut 2 chipboard pieces that are 8x8, and then you're going to cut a spine piece that is going to measure 2.5 by 8 inches. Now I use tyvek in order to attach my panels. It does not tear. You have to actually cut it to get it to do any damage to it. So I cut two 2-inch strips that were about 7 3/4 long. And then I scored at 7/8, and then I scored at 1 1/8 on each one of them. And then I created a gusset that we're going to be playing with. This is what's going to be in between each of the chipboard panels. Now I've gone ahead and laid down my tyvek, and the reason I had to do that was I needed to get the span so that I would know where everything was going to fall into line before I brought in this center piece. So what's going to happen is you're going to cut 2 pieces, and then I'll give those to you here in a second. So we're really, this seam here and then this seam here, I wanted to keep it as far away from this edge of the cardstock and the or chipboard and the edge of the chipboard panel so that there was less tension. And then to further make sure that it was good and solid, I have a 5/8 of an inch tape seam. So you can use 1 strip of 3/8 and 1 strip of 1/4, or you can use 1 5/8 of an inch. And that's going to then give us the guide for putting this down. But for now, let's move back to the chipboard pieces. As I stated, I want to make sure I've got a 1/4 inch gusset. That's where a lot of the bulk is going to drop to. And I want to make sure that I've got room for it to do that, and then still have a nice cornered edge on the folds when we get ready to close up the album. I'm sorry, my brain is working on the tape and I'm trying to talk to you at the same time. All right, so we're going to get that down. And then we're going to come over here. And now I'm going to add this piece. I'm going to come right up. Right up to that gusset. we go. So we've got our 1/4 inch gussets. So let's come back to this. Now, this center piece is going to measure at roughly 5 3/8 of an inch. By this, well, that's cut kind of short. I might have to cut these short so everything matches. These are at 10 inches. And I cut this one short, so I'm at 9 7/8. So I need to cut these at 9 7/8 so that I have everything at the same length. So give me 2 seconds here. Okay. All right, so we should all be the same length now. Yep. All right, now we're going to go ahead and tape this piece on. And what I'm going to do here is take off one side. And then I'm going to line this right up here at the top, follow it all the way down to the bottom. And then we're going to do the same thing here. It's easier actually for me to see it, lining it up from the bottom and then to the top. Okay, now this guy. It's going to sit in here like so. We're going to have roughly an inch all the way around. So it might help if I give you those measurements. What a knucklehead. Okay, these are at 8.5, both of these, because my paper is 8.5 by 11. So these are 8.5 by 9 7/8. I'd prefer 10, but I cut one short. And then again, this was 5 3/8 by 9 7/8. Now we're back to centering it about an inch apart. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape this side first, and it's going to take quite a bit of tape because we want good coverage. We want that cardstock really adhered to the chipboard. So I am going to use 3/8 of an inch here along the edge of the chipboard. Now, the best way to find that nice, tight, secure edge is to turn it over, press against the edge so that there is no gap. And then we're going to do the same with this side. I'm going to press against it so that I've got a nice, sharp edge. I want this tape right on that edge. So we're going to do the same thing here. Quit moving, quit moving. And then we're going to press this down this way so I got a nice sharp edge. And then I'm going to burnish these real quick before I forget. And then I'm going to run 1/4 inch tape right down the center. This for me will become essential here in a little bit. Now I'm going to 1/4 inch tape on the end. Where is my tear tool? And then I'm going to go in the middle roughly, and then the middle again. Now, if you've not made any mini albums in the past, it does take quite a bit of tape to make one of these if you don't want it to fall apart. So don't be too stingy with it. One more. All right, now before I put this down on the paper, I want to add some tape to the perimeter of the paper first. It's easier to do it when it's separate of the album. So this is going to be 1/2 inch tape, and it's going to go around the perimeter. Getting a little cockeyed there. But once that tape goes down, it does not come up very nice. So I'll just leave it the way it is. It's on the edge. It's no big deal. All right, so give these a good burnish. Again, this is so much easier to do this part when it's not attached to the album. All right, now we're going to attach the tape. So we're going to come in, and I want to make sure that I'm roughly the same distance from end to end, which should be just about 1 inch. So if this is a 1/2 inch, this should be about a 1/2 inch as well. 1/2 inch, or yeah, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. And then you can eyeball 1/2 inch for the top and the bottom. Now, once I get that set, I'm going to really press down on this panel because I don't want it to move. Now that I have determined I've got it in the right place. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to take the center tape off first. Oh, I slid. Gosh darn. Okay, there we go. Give it a good burnish. Now, this is a little bit of the tricky part. You've got a tape right here that is on that edge. We want to get in and take it off. But by removing this centerpiece first before we pull the tape on the opposite side here, it keeps everything in place. So you're free to kind of move it around. And I'm sorry, I'm right-handed, so I have a tendency to flip things around so that I can get it to my right side. All right, now I'm going to turn her over and give it a good burnish. And then here comes the next part. You've got tape on the back side of these panels. You have a gusset. I want you to make sure that your gusset's not doing this or doing this. You're going to do a gentle pull when we start pulling the tape. You're going to do a gentle pull to keep that gusset open and then lay your tape down. Okay? Gentle pull, keep it straight, lay this down. And now I'm going to turn it over and around so I can get my work on my right-hand side. All right, same process. I don't want that gusset collapsing, so I'm giving it a nice gentle pull. Lay it down. Burnish, get all the airs out. All right, now before I can go really, truly any farther, I need to miter my corners. And this is the tool I use for mitering my corners. I think my knife is a little dull. I'll have to change that blade. Now, if you're curious, this tool I'm using, it's called a 2-in-1 miter tool, and I got it at colorwayarts.com. It's fairly weighted, and I can either use this as my cutting edge or I can use this as my cutting edge for mitering my corners. So that's what I'm using. Now, the next step is to take 3/8 of an inch tape, and we're going to tape the inside of the chipboard edges. And then we'll... Uh-oh. You're going to hear a loud bang. I apologize. Ugh. That was a A-frame stand that just took a tumble. And I wasn't close enough to get there fast enough, so I just had to let it fall. I apologize. Just one more after this, which is the other end. Okay, let's get all this burnished. All right, I'm going to start on an end. I'm going to start with using my hand to pull it up. Let's take, this is one of the reasons why I love working with a heavier weight cardstock, though I do prefer 65-pound weight when I'm wrapping an album, but it's sturdy, it stands up, so it's not going to get limpy on you when you're making your album after it's done and you've got all that weight on to that cardstock with those signatures. 100-pound weight is what I prefer. It stands up to the weight of the additional cardstock as well as the paper collection you're playing with. Okay, and then I'm going to smash and turn these corners in. Okay, so this is, I'm going to start taking the long tape off. Come on. And I'm going to pull this up here with my hands, get it up next to the chipboard. Let me take off this long strip. smash this in there. Take that down just a little bit. Take this off. I'm going to take this off. Smash that in there. Get this wrapped. We'll move on to installing the pages. Okay, nice little corners going on here. All right, now find the tool, your, just lost the words for this. Find a nice round ball, preferably the bigger the better. You're going to fold up on this, and then you're going to, and I know what I'm going to do here, just a second. This is pretty stiff. I'm going to weaken the fibers. What I want to do is I want to push this cardstock ever so gently down into this gusset. Working it carefully not to tear on both sides. Really important that you get down here on the end, because that's where a lot of the bulk will start to show itself. And then the same here, we're gonna just I'm looking for, hold on here. I'll be right back, just a second. Some of that excess water up out of there. I don't show you why I want you to do this. If you don't, then you're going to have a bunch. You're just going to have a big, huge bunch. And I want that in there so that when you go to close this, you have really nice, sharp corners on your spine. You don't have this rounded heap that's here that you're fighting against all the time. So we'll just give it a couple of little workings here, get some flexibility into it. Now we're going to build the inside panel. So we want this to measure 8 inches. Should have been extra. Oh, I know what I did. So we want it to measure 8 inches. No, I don't. Sorry, stop, back up. I'm thinking I'm cutting to this. I don't want it 8 inches. I want it just below the edge line. So we're going to come in at 7 7/8 in height. So let's cut this at 7 7/8. So I've got it 7 7/8 in height. So if I do a little dry measure here, then it fits very nicely. But now I want to cut this down to 6 inches across. I don't need a big piece here. Okay, so then we're going to take a look at, we've got about 1 inch on each side here. Or a little bit more than that, 1.5 inches on each side of where the gusset comes in at. So I'm going to run a perimeter tape around here, and then I'm going to tape this inside, and I'm going to run 1 strip of tape down each of those. I'm not going to come onto the blued cardstock because the perimeter tape on it will hold the paper down. But I want some good tape in here because I want my panel to be nice and secure to the album base. All right, now I lost it again. I always lose this little guy. I am using 1/2 inch tape. It gives me more coverage and more strength than using a 1/4 inch or even a 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so the piece I'm going to take off first is this one because it's in the middle, and just like when we were putting this whole thing together, this will keep my cardstock where I place it, and it's not going to be moving around. So I'm going to eyeball this. I want it to be the same distance roughly. Side to side and top to bottom. Now I'll sneak in here and I'll remove these 2 tapes. Okay, now I'm going to take the tape off the top and the bottom, but I'm not going to remove the tape off the sides yet. And I'm also not going to apply pressure to push that down because I'll show you why. A little spritz. I'm going to get my rounded scoring tool. I want to fold this up and I want to find that same gusset and I want to push. Just working it gently. Better to go back and forth 6 times. Than it is to hurry and end up tearing it. Now I'll push top and bottom down and I'll sneak in and take this tape in. And the reason I do it that way is you're pushing some of this cardstock down in here, and you can tell that by the way that this pulls up. So it gives me less resistance. And when I get that in there, I still have a very nice cornered edge. So now I will get over here and start working this side. I'm going to give it a bend so I can see where it's at, and then follow the first edge I find, which is the here, the spine. And if I dampen it, when it's this heavy a cardstock, there is less opportunity for it to tear. Just weakening the fiber a little bit. And now if I was wrapping this in a 65-pound weight, I would not be using it here. I want my thicker cardstock here because it is now becoming the internal base on my album. So I will always defer to a heavier weight cardstock. So when I buy my cardstock, I try to buy it so that I've got it in 65-pound weight and 100-pound weight in the same color plan. Okay, fold that up and look at this. Nice corners still. We don't have that rounded bulk. And it serves as our visual for where our gusset is. All right, let's make our pages. We're going to make 3 of them. So they're going to be 7 7/8 in height, all 3 of them. Let's do that first, and then we'll cut the length. So 7 7/8. We want it to match this height. Oops, there we go. 7 7/8. Seven 7/8. Then another thing I do when I buy my cardstock, I will always buy it in 25 count packs because I use a lot of cardstock when I'm building my album, so I don't want to run out of color. All right, so we're going to score each one of these at 5/8 of an inch. So let's get our scoring out here. I don't want that one. I want this one at 5/8 of an inch. I think maybe I said, no, that was measured. 5/8 of an inch. And I'm going over this a couple of times because it's pretty thick cardstock. These will be our gussets, which will allow for lots of room for the signatures to come. All right, now I'm going to fold one over, or try to. This is such a challenge. All right, now I'm going to pretend my book is closed. Oh, I've got a tape goober there. I'm going to pretend my book is closed. I'm going to push this right up next to our spine, and I want to see where this falls. And it's falling about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. And if I build up 1/4 inch, it's going to come right to the end. So we're going to back this off another 1/8 of an inch in length. So that's all we're doing, is just cutting off 1/8 of an inch in length. And I'm going to go to a different trimmer because I can see my 1/8 of an inch a lot easier. Okay, there's one. Two. Three. Okay, finish folding against the score mark. Okay, now we're going to use 1/2 inch tape. good burnish. Now inserting these. This edge is going to come right up to this edge, and so if you were to line all three of these up next to each other, there's one, and then there's two, and then you have three. You should have roughly 5/8 left over back here so that it balances the 5/8 that you have up here. So we're going to put this right along that edge, and I'm just going to gently put it down in case I have to do any adjustments. I'm going to come sneak right up underneath that edge. Pardon my head. Just going to set it down gently. I'm doing pretty good so far. Wanted to make sure that I didn't have anything off center there. And then we're going to come right up underneath here for this one. So I'm coming right up underneath this one, and I'm going to put it down, and everything laid out nicely, so now I can get in there and score them. Okay. There's your album. We've got our 3 pages. We're done. We're ready to cover. And so we will see that in the next video. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.